Another day, another drop of information for Season 2 upcoming in now less than 2 weeks. Today, Infinity Ward laid out and clarified some of the upcoming changes we'll see, while also detailing some, and I say that in context loosely, some of the future plans for DMZ to come beyond. Today, we're breaking down and let you know all you need to know so that you can get ready for a handful of changes and a reset come the 15th. So as we go along, drop your thoughts down below. Does this clarification make things better for you and your interpretation on how they'll handle DMZ going forward? Are you happy to see these changes? Whatever the case, drop your thoughts below. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. I'd love to have you in the community. And as well, check out my friends at GamerAdvantage for 24% off your next pair of blue light glasses, which is the best deal they're running of the new year so far, but more on them in a bit. For now, let's jump into what we learned about the upcoming changes for DMZ. So firstly, we learned last week of a few changes coming of significance to DMZ. Things like enemy tuning, spawn points, mission difficulty, and a few others. Now, enemy tuning was something that was pretty straightforward in assumption, but it was expanded upon where Infinity Ward stated that they've introduced a number of balance changes to adjust the types of AI spawning, number of AI spawning, and the accuracy of AI at range, and more, hopefully to provide a more manageable play space. Now, of course, the entire point of AI is to kind of be a nuisance, otherwise we wouldn't have them at all, but at the same time, being chased down for hundreds of meters if you have one aggroed on yourself or your teammate, them being able to land shots over that same absurd amount of distance, when real life players and real life operators probably wouldn't be hitting those against you, it does get annoying, so it's nice to see those changes coming. Spawn points was something of concern as well, that we've seen multiple spawn points in Season 1 where you'd either have an engagement within a few seconds of spawning, if not immediately as you spawn. The one hillside spawn in the southwest by Port, I think it was, you can quite literally just turn and see a spawn point. So plenty of sniper battles were had there. Infinity Ward stated that they're tuning the infill points across Al Mazrah for improved early match gameplay, but not only just to avoid those immediate confrontations, but also to have it feel we are not isolated or without loot or contract opportunities. For that, I'm looking at the Turok spawns entirely. The whole of the northern portion of Al Mazrah was basically a ghost town for loot and contracts for most spawn times. Now, what also is detailed here beyond just the infill locations was the additional changes to exfil locations, boss locations, and dead drop locations that will be changed in those spawn points as well. Now, I'm curious what this will mean for some areas. They didn't quite detail beyond just that there will be changes here to them. Does that mean they're going to keep the existing ones and add more on top of that? Are they going to shift around all of these locations for some or all of those categories of spawn things? Because there's currently 43 to 45 exfil and final exfil locations that can spawn, 6 dead drop location spawns, and 3 radiation zones where the chemist can spawn in Al Mazrah. So completely upending some of those are much easier than other categories, but again, not really clear on what they mean on that just yet. Mission difficulty was also something that was expanded upon, but not by much. Today's blog post more so reiterating that the ramp up in difficulty was too aggressive by Season 1 standards, so they're adjusting the first few tiers to make those easier, but then higher tiers are easier to manage overall, so that hopefully things like the Golden Skull and Golden Bar challenge that you would have by comparison now, you're not just waiting days on end to try and collect every supply drop from SAM sites or just that drop in hoping for the RNG to work with you. So we'll see some changes here for that as well, but then we saw some things detailed previously. Crashing was then again mentioned, where they said that fixing crashing issues is of course a priority, but they didn't elaborate any further on that. I'd love to see some sort of safety net system, because if a game or your system literally crashes or the server dies, that shouldn't be punished the same way that I think quite literally leaving the match or dying and losing all your loot should be. But maybe that's just me. Now, the really big stuff was that there were some brand new things here discussed on the reset that will be happening, as well as some brand new content coming along with Season 2 as well. So let's start with that refresh. What's really happening with that? Well, with a little bit of backtracking for what was initially announced last week, we have a slightly different outcome than the last time we talked about this. Previously, it was reported that the refresh, you'd lose your insured weapon slots as well on top of everything, but that is indeed not the case now, as Infinity Ward has clarified that if you got your insured slots either second or third, those will both be staying in your inventory. If you do not have an insured slot, however, while we will see the mission refresh, we'll also be seeing the pathway to those additional insured weapon slots being a little easier. So hopefully it shouldn't take as long as it has to get close to that here within Season 1. They also further clarified what will be a part of that reset. Contraband weapon inventories will be reset, so anything that you exfilled with that is not your insured weapon, those will now be taken away and go away as well. You have to pick up new weapons off the ground, kill operators and take their weapons and exfil with those, so all that will be refreshed as well. Key inventories, any key that you have will be completely wiped. Faction missions and mission progress, of course, will be wiped to make room for updated and new missions to incorporate the dubbed exclusion zones across the board. Season 2 now having 3 3 with Al Mazrah, Building 21, and Ashika Island, that new resurgence map that we detailed the last 2 days here for Warzone. So we do have a decent amount of stuff that is being refreshed, but not everything. They also later clarified a little bit of the reasoning as to why we'd see this happen. And right up front, this is not going to be a seasonal thing, which is one, nice to hear, and two, also kind of in line with the assumption we had last week when we talked about this. When you consider that they have to remake the difficulty of missions, you can't do that by either undercutting what players who already did complete it accomplished by simply making those changes retroactively, where even those that completed it wouldn't have done that same amount, but like the numbers would be lower in quantity. Or at the same time, you couldn't do that by just simply giving freebies to those that didn't complete it. So it'd be kind of a lose-lose in that situation, where right now, to make it sort of air quote equal, a refresh kind of has to be the way to do that, it seems like. They detailed that in this refresh, we'd also be seeing things like a new key stash, change to the menu, where it seems like based off the wording, it should be a little more streamlined and better for allowing specific mission items to be used across their exclusion zones. So I'm wondering if we get more categories in those key sets, UI changes, but it seems like we'll be seeing something there. But they also mentioned that this change is required so they can encompass multi-locational challenges, whereas again, before, nothing was catered to Building 21 at all. So for Building 21 in particular, there really wasn't much of a point unless you wanted to exfil with like Velikan's launcher or do the weapon case challenges. You couldn't really take anything that you earned unless it was just like extraction missions. For most of the big challenges, the one that I go back to is like the gold skulls and the gold bars. Those are way more abundant in Building 21 just because it's way higher loot, but you couldn't dead drop that and count it towards your challenge because you needed to dead drop it by the dumpster near the gas station at Al Sharim Pass, which obviously is not in Building 21. So with these changes, we'll have sort of value to challenges across the board no matter where you are in exclusion zone. So that's what they detailed on the refresh. My only curiosity and thing that they didn't quite answer here out of this is when it comes down to rewards, will we see a refresh on all of those, i.e. will we have the same weapon case items be available in Al Mazrah, Building 21, and in addition to what we end up getting for new cases in Ashika Island, will we still have the same faction tier completion rewards? Will those skins and blueprints be the same in Season 2, or will we see those refreshed? Those just don't have the answer here to it, and honestly, I think that's one of those things that makes it a little more worthwhile to either grind out or not grind out at the end of Season 1 here, because if you want those specific things and they're going to be refreshed, well, you want to make sure you complete those before the refresh. So that's something that I'd like to see clarified a little further, maybe in next week's blog post detailing everything coming with Season 2, but for right now, that's what we have. Now, beyond that, we learned of a new faction coming called Crown. Now, no details were given beyond the announcement, no logo, no details on missions, rewards, or anything like that. The only thing that came along with this was the mention that this is an exclusive faction for Modern Warfare 2 paid owners. So a little something extra for those that own the game, perhaps, which now that I see this and see how they're taking this, I wouldn't be surprised if this is the way forward for at least some, if not all, new factions introduced. Have baseline ones for those in the free-to-play set, but add more for the game owners. And I mean, that's kind of already the case. Free-to-play players only had 10 key slots as opposed to 20, or they should. I've seen some people's games bug out where that's not exactly the case, but I wouldn't be surprised if that's the way they take this going forward. And I get trying to add sort of air quote value to the paid offering, but I don't think that that's really the content that paid players are hoping to see. I feel like if you're trying to offer content, you know, swap that faction out, give that to the free players, but then give those that are paying for the game more, I don't know, multiplayer maps or any attention to multiplayer, but we're not going to go off on a tangent here on that one. Additional changes in content that were detailed here with this were, of course, coming down to some map-specific stuff. Ashika Island obviously is a brand new map coming with Season 2, and we'll see in DMZ, which includes new locale, but also new weapon cases with rewards, a new boss called the Bomb Maker, new locked and dangerous spaces to access and explore, and challenges specific to Ashika Island. Building 21 will also see some changes here, where we'll now have the ability to access keys across SAM site crates, chopper boss crates, legendary crates, and now buy stations, it seems like, to obtain access cards as well. Now again, on top of that, just like Ashika Island, we will be seeing challenges specific for Building 21 as well, to some degree. But then finally for Al Mazrah, this little bit was tucked away in there. It seems like we're going to have a slight point of interest change to Satik Caves, as apparently there's an unknown aircraft that crashed there and has caused rival factions of Legion and White Lotus to battle it out. Probably some pretty good loot there, but also probably a lot of tier 3 AI, so be ready for a fight. And that's probably on top of what's already there. Caves is already very, very populated with AI, so just be careful if you want to go and explore that. Now, as for the future plans, again, we say loosely in terms of the context here, because they did say they're going to be continuing to gauge the feedback to shape future iterations of the game. They said that DMZ is still in beta, so there's lots to work on here and a lot to come in the future. So for right now, that's kind of where we're at here with this, a more immediate look at Season 2, but that's everything that we learned about DMZ, and some good changes, some strange changes, and some just stuff that I'm kind of impartial on. So that's what we're going to call it. I'd love to get your thoughts and feedback down below. But before we wrap everything up, a reminder, check out my friends over at GamerAdvantage. To me, again, they are the best blue light glasses company on the market, no doubt. This YouTube thing, I'm looking at my monitor for 10 plus hours a day, 7 days a week. So if you guys are like me, working at a computer, looking at your phone, watching a ton of anything on a screen, this can help you out tremendously. GamerAdvantage is the best on the market though, clinically proven results, but to me, they're also the most comfortable, lightweight, and durable frames on the market. Full disclosure, they are a bit more expensive than, say, something you'd find on Amazon, but they are 100% worthwhile, and the quality is absolutely reflected in that price difference. Right now, for Valentine's Day, there's a site-wide 14% off discount, but with code ESPRESSO, that stacks an additional 10% off, giving you a total of 24% off your entire order. Now is the best time of the new year to order anything. We haven't seen a deal like this since the holidays, and these deals don't come around too often, so if you guys want to check out anything and learn more, link in the description below, but if you'd like to pick something up for yourself, make sure to use code ESPRESSO at checkout. But for now, again, that's where we're going to wrap it up. I'd love to get your thoughts and feedback down below. If you enjoyed the video, you found it at all insightful, do me a favor and drop a like on it. And if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a single thing regarding all things Modern Warfare 2, Warzone 2, DMZ, and of course, anything Season 2 related. We got a lot upcoming here in the next week or two, so make sure you stick it here on the channel. But for now, thanks so much for watching. My name is ESPRESSO. I'll see you guys later. Take care and peace.